It's time for another experiment with thermally modified wood. What we have here are two identical pieces of ash cut from the same board and planed to the same dimensions. Ash is generally considered to be less than optimal for cutting boards because of its porous open grain structure. But my theory is that if one of these pieces goes into the oven at 375 for 2 hours, as the wood shrinks, the pores will close up, and in the end it will actually be very well suited for cutting boards. I'm going to set it on 2 pieces of pine since we learned in the first test that pine is an excellent insulator. Alright, that is 375 degrees, really hot, at 2 hours. We'll let this cool down a little bit and we'll do some testing in the morning. This is the outcome of yesterday's test. I'd say overall it went pretty well. We got some nice coloration on this piece here that was baked. I will say that next time I'm not going to use pine as an insulator because this piece had too much sap in it, ended up staining the wood, and also put in a nice coating of sap on the pan that was underneath it. So maybe something like poplar or another light wood that isn't going to stain and doesn't have a high sap content. Let's take some measurements and see how these two turned out. The original was at almost 1.04 inches, and after being baked we're down to almost 1 exactly. That's about the thickness of a credit card. And across the width we're at 1.17 inches, and on this one, well, it's a bigger jump, about 1.13. We're about the thickness of a credit card when you have some balance in your account. So now the next thing we're going to do is just to see how this affected the properties of the wood. I have some saline solution here, and I'm going to put an equal amount of drops on each piece, and we'll just wait and see how long it takes for it to soak in. Five drops. 5 drops. 5 drops. And 5 drops. Now keep in mind, this piece here is significantly drier just from being in the oven. This piece was baked previously at around I think 170 for 2 or 3 hours, so it's dry, but this piece is definitely drier. So it's a little bit of a disadvantage. So if the saline solution soaks in faster to this one, or to this one, we just have to take into account that this is a drier piece of wood to begin with, but it's also going to be more dense because of that little bit of shrinkage. So let's just give it some time and see what happens. I think we can call this a wrap. That one's evaporated, that one's evaporated, that one's evaporated, and that one's still going. I really don't think any of these actually soaked in. I think they just evaporated from the heat from the oven, since I had some maple in there cooking and the fan was going above it. And for part 2, I have 2 cups, each containing, 2 ounces of water. And we're going to leave these overnight and see how the dimensions and weight changes. Oh joy, it's early in the morning and these have been soaking overnight, so let's see what we got. I'm really not expecting to see much difference in weight. And this scale may not be precise enough to really tell. Anyway, that's 2.4 ounces, 4 ounces worth of cup. And that's 2.3 ounces. How about that? Okay. And now with the calipers on this end, we have 1.14, and on the end that soaked overnight we have 1.17. Difference of 0.3. On this end we're starting at 1.17, and down here 1.21, a difference of 0.4. So I think that confirms it twice. The baked wood will definitely absorb less water and is probably a suitable material for a cutting board.